I'll formally start the webinar. So thank you, Amy, and thank you, Rose, for coming on board and supplying the webinar about Mozzies. And we'll let you introduce yourselves and where you're from, and start the information, and then open for questions at the end. But what I'll do now is I'll go on mute because that helps the quality of the webinar.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so hi, I'm Amy Krupa. I work here at SERCUL. I'm the CEO, and this is Rose Weerasinghe. She's our ecologist. So SERCUL, or the South East Regional Centre for Urban Land Care, it's a sub-regional land care group. So we work in Western Australia, in Perth, and we work in the southern suburbs of Perth, basically, quite a large area. And we run a number of programs, and Mozzie Wise, which you're going to talk about today, is certainly one of our main education programs. But we have a land care and restoration section, so we do a lot of work here on the Canning River, where our office is here in Beckenham is on the Canning River, so a lot of our restoration sites are along the Canning and some of the tributaries that go into them as well. We also have our environmental education section, so Rose helps out with the Mozzie Wise program, and then we have another major program we run called the Phosphorus Awareness Project, looking at nutrients and water quality in the rivers around Perth as well. We have a community capacity, so we help support a lot of our community groups in the region. We have 46 friends of and community groups that we work with, so supporting a lot of those in many different ways. Some a lot of support, some just very minor support. And then we also have a monitoring and research component as well, and that's where Rose mainly fits in. So she does a lot of our macroinvertebrate sampling, looking at mosquitoes, of course, a lot of mosquito research, but also just making sure that all of our restoration is done, I guess, in a way that isn't going to have mosquitoes breeding. So I'm going to do most of the presenting today, but Rose is certainly here to answer questions, and we'll jump in and out as we go through the Mozzie Wise program. So we have been running the Mozzie Wise program now for about probably 3 years. We do that in some of the local government areas around Perth. So mainly along the Swan River, a little bit on the Canning River as well. And yeah, with support from the Department of Health. So the West Australian Department of Health sort of gave us some core funding to sort of start off this program. Hi, Michelle. And yeah, we've been able to then sort of take it out. And you know, some of the resources we're going to talk about today are quite generic, so they can really be used all over Australia, and they're not just specifically for West Australian conditions, which is really good. So that was a big part of what we wanted to do when we did this initially. So just to start off with, we'll talk a little bit about mosquitoes and their actual role in the environment. So mosquitoes generally have a bit of a bad name, but in fact, they're actually quite an important part of our ecosystems. So they are a food source for many animals, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The mosquito larvae are actually filter feeders, so they help to clean the waterways as they're going through, because mosquito larvae sort of take up with their funny little mouthpieces, sort of microscopic animals and plants out of the water, so they can sort of help to clean the water as they're going through. The adult mosquitoes are also pollinators of plants, and a lot of people don't realise that. They think of bees as being sort of some of the only pollinators, but actually mosquitoes can pollinate a lot of our local native plants as well. So if we didn't have these mosquitoes around, there'd be lots of our, you know, sedges and other plants that just wouldn't get actually pollinated. So they are important, but the big issue is they are a nuisance and they are a vector for diseases. So they do spread diseases. Obviously they can be annoying if you're out and about and you get bitten by one and get a bit of a rash. And that's probably what most people think when they think of mosquitoes, is the negative side of them. But we're trying to let people know that there is a positive side as well, but it's just about us, or, you know, making sure that we are preventing mosquitoes from breeding in places where we live, and also making sure we can actually protect ourselves. So that's sort of what the whole program is all about. So, hang on, I just lost my page. So with mosquitoes, so mosquito larvae, they are a food source for quite a number of different predators. So we have a lot of water beetles that live in our water. So things like water boatmen, dragonfly larvae, but also some of the bigger animals like ducks, some of the birds, and certainly fish. They actually rely on mosquito larvae as a source of food. So we do want some around, we just don't want too many. And the mosquito larvae themselves, as I mentioned before, they have those funny mouthpieces where they go through the water and eat the little animals and plants, so they help to clean the water. But they actually also eat themselves. So they're actually cannibals. So the larger mosquito larvae, they go through 3-4 different molts as they're going through to change into a pupae. Then they can, the bigger mosquito larvae can actually eat smaller mosquito larvae as well. So quite interesting how they actually work. And then with the adult mosquitoes, we mentioned before, they are certainly a food source for some animals. So things like damselflies and dragonflies do eat mosquitoes, adult mosquitoes, bats as well, especially microbats. That's one of their big food sources is mosquitoes. So we didn't have mosquitoes, all of those bats would have nothing to eat. We have also got frogs as well. So a lot of frogs, and then birds as well as spiders. So there's a lot of animals out there that are actually using mosquitoes as a food source. And then mosquitoes themselves, as I mentioned, they are pollinators. They actually, the adults or the male mosquitoes only eat plant nectar and plant saps. The female mosquitoes eat that as well, but of course the female mosquitoes also use our blood. So that's the only time of year that really mosquitoes are going to attack us or take our blood, is when the female needs proteins from our blood to be able to produce her eggs. So for most of the year, she'd be eating just plant nectar and plant pollens as well. But yeah, during those warmer months when it's her breeding season, that's when she sort of comes in and takes our blood. Anything to add, Rose? Or
yes, most animals eat larvae, also eat mosquito eggs as well.
Yep.
Most of water bugs eat like caddisfly larvae or water snails and leeches. They eat mosquito eggs as well.
Yeah, so they have that. Yep. So where do mosquitoes like to breed? So they basically will breed anywhere where there's water around. So usually that's stagnant water. If there's water that's moving, they generally don't have a place to lay their eggs. But yeah, anywhere where there's water that is just sitting around for a certain amount is, well, for a week actually. So over the warmer months, it can just take 1 week from when the mosquitoes lay their eggs for them to change into the larval stages, the pupa stages, and then into the adult mosquito. So if you've got water sitting around anywhere for a week, that can potentially happen. So of course, out in our environment, we've got our rivers and wetlands and drains where there is water sitting around, so they can be places for mosquito breeding. And that's where Rose has done a lot of research over the last few years, looking at making sure that when we do our work out in the environment, that we're not actually creating areas where mosquitoes can breed. So we're putting in wetland systems and creek systems that, aren't good for mosquitoes. And I guess around our houses, there's lots of places where mosquitoes can breed. If you have a pond, for example, or a pool, or even just a pot plant with a plant saucer sitting in the bottom with a bit of water, that water's there for a week, can actually breed mosquitoes. So it is quite, it can be very easy for them to grow. And also salt marshes as well. So some of the mosquitoes that we have are freshwater species, so they can only lay their eggs in fresh water. Then we have other ones that can actually breed in saltwater areas as well. So depending on where you are in Australia, you'll have either fresh or salt or both species. So yeah, certainly something to consider, especially with summer coming up, just making sure that water isn't left around, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
One thing to add, and some mosquito species can desiccate their eggs, and like salt marsh species and container breeders in even our backyards, they can dry their eggs, but not dying actually until they get water to complete their life cycle.
So that is quite scary, really. So even they can lay their eggs and the water could go away, but those eggs can still survive till the following season. And then once the water comes back, then they can hatch into the larvae. So yeah, hence why we don't want them really breeding around our houses at all. So some of the reasons why mosquitoes do breed in our waterways or around your house is because of poor water quality with low oxygen conditions. So generally in our systems, our natural systems, we want to have really good water quality and lots of oxygen in the water. And also places that are shallow and densely covered with vegetation are really good areas for mosquitoes to breed as well. And mainly all of those conditions, the low oxygen, the poor water quality, the shallow conditions, usually mean you don't have any predators. And when you don't have predators for the mosquito larvae, then that's when you're going to get your mosquitoes actually being able to breed there. Because the actual mosquito larvae and the pupae, they don't actually need oxygen from the water. A lot of our other water bugs, fish, etc., need to take oxygen from the water. So as soon as there's low oxygen conditions, they all get knocked out. Mosquito larvae can survive and the pupae, because they have like a little straw that they stick out of the water. So it's a siphon in I always get them confused.
Larvae.
Siphon in a larvae and a trumpet in a pupae. So it's basically a straw, they stick out of the water and they get their oxygen out of the atmosphere. Hence, they can live anywhere, and that's a really scary thing. So that's why we need to have, in our natural environments, or if you've got a pond at home even, making sure really good water quality, that you have high oxygen levels in your water so that then the predators can survive and then they can eat the mosquito larvae. So that's what we try and do in our restoration sites, and would encourage everybody to do in their restoration sites.
Yeah. Another thing is, we have a lot of weeds in our wetlands or waterways, these mosquito species, some mosquito species pierce to plant cells and get oxygen from plants.
Yes.
If water quality is very low, actually they can get oxygen from plants.
Okay. Yeah.
Another adaptation. They're very adaptive. Yeah.
So exactly, they can survive in lots of places where lots of their predators can't. So how we also affect our waterways is by polluting them. So lots of nutrients going in the water through, grass clippings and fertilizer, dog poo, detergents, etc. So if there's high nutrient levels, that means algae can bloom. And then when that algae decomposes, all the oxygen gets taken out of the water, and that's when the predators die off, and then the larvae and the pupae can survive and can sort of take over. So yeah, we have a part to play in that as well, by just what we do in our own backyards, making sure that, the only thing that goes down our drains is water, and just being really careful with things that can get into the groundwater system like fertilizer as well. So over the last few years, we have really, we tried to sort of have an integrated mosquito management program. So we have focused a lot on the biological side of things. So looking at the predators in the waterways and making sure that, there's lots of them so that they can actually eat the mosquito larvae and the pupae. Then there's the physical side of that. You might want to maybe talk a bit about that.
Physical side mean actually like what SERCUL doing is improving our wetlands and ecosystems by doing restoration or rehabilitation and removing weeds. By doing that, we can enhance our ecosystem and increase water quality and improve habitats to increase natural predators.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then the other side of mosquito management is chemicals, and that's what we're trying to get away from. So a lot of, especially in the Perth region, a lot of our local governments use larvicides that they put in the water to kill the larvae, or they don't generally fog anymore, but in the past they certainly have for the adults.
Yes, we need chemical control for integrated management, only for emergency. I think we kind of combination effort, we need to control mosquitoes as a long-term process. So yes, chemical control has non-target effects. That's why if we have integrated approach with combined effort of physical changes or rehabilitation or restoration and improving ecosystem, and same time, we'll talk about other thing, awareness is big part of integrated mosquito management.
But I guess what we're trying to focus on is the physical, the biological, and the cultural, which we're about to talk about, which is the Mozzie Wise education program, and trying to get away from that chemical use if we can, because for starters, it is expensive. It does cost the local governments a lot of money to do that. And then the other thing is, it also, like Rose mentioned, has a non-targeted, so it doesn't just affect the mosquito larvae, it affects other animals or other, the macroinvertebrates living in the system as well. So we can get away from using some of these chemicals. That's certainly the way to go. So hence why the Mozzie Wise education program came about. So we're going to talk a bit more about the actual program itself now and some of the resources that are part of that. So basically the whole aim of that program is to reduce mosquito-borne disease risk. Obviously, if we've got less mosquitoes around, there's less chance of people getting bitten and actually, getting these diseases. And the diseases, well, the main ones in Perth are Ross River virus and Barmera forest virus, and neither of those have got any cures. So if you get them, you basically have them for the rest of your life.
No any vaccine or no any medicine.
No vaccination, nothing. So hence why we're trying to, and of course around Australia, there's other mosquito-borne diseases as well that would be trying to stop. But it's also about increasing the understanding of mosquitoes. Like we mentioned at the start, mosquitoes actually have a really important role in our environment and in our ecosystems, and people don't realise they are pollinators and they are a food source. So we do want them to be around, We just don't want them to be around, I guess, where we spend most of our time, which is around our houses. So we've been providing these education programs now for the last few years in some of the local government areas around Perth, and just getting really to, people to understand the effects that they can have on the environment, but that, they can be good as well. So we have sort of a few different components of the program. So there is a community awareness forum that we can run in different local government areas, which we have in the City of Canning, City of Armidale, City of Coburn, a few different areas around Perth.
And also 5 other councils in the other side of the river.
So running community awareness forums for them, but also setting up displays at some of their fairs and festivals as well. So we have promotional material, which we'll show you soon, that we give out. We also do some sessions with some of the staff as well at the local governments, because their environmental health officers and their environment officers might not be aware of some of the other things that are going on with mosquitoes. But also we have a school education program, which we've been running for a few years now. It's actually a link to the national science curriculum. And we have teacher guides, which we'll show you in a second, which are basically from kindy through to year 10. So we'll come into the classroom and do a incursion. And then, we leave these with the teacher. And basically they have a series or information about mosquitoes, activities that you can do, lots of sheets that are in there that teachers can use. And not just teachers, anybody who's working with the community could, probably use the high school version and do some of the activities out of that with adults as well. So, so there's like an information sheet for each of the activities and then the actual activity itself. But if anybody's interested, we can certainly give you a bit more information about them later. And then answer sheets also, so that you don't have to, try and figure out all the answers yourself. So all the answers are already in there. And like I said before, they are quite generic. Obviously, we're based in Western Australia, but these could be used anywhere over Australia. We've tried to, keep them very generic. So we're talking about mosquitoes in general and not really specific species of mosquitoes. And then, of course, we also have the logo, which you can see there, the Mozzie Wales logo. And there's a series of characters that come with that as well. And even the colour scheme, we have lots of different brochures that we have out at fairs and festivals. And the ones that get picked up the most are these Mozzie Wise ones, because they are nice and bright and colourful, and they sort of really do attract people in. And the mosquito character carrying her blood, is a lot of, and there's stickers, all sorts of things that go with that as well. But the actual education program, so we come into our school and we usually talk to a class for about an hour, and we talk about a lot of the things we've been talking to you guys about: the health risks, the life cycle of the mosquitoes, their role in the environment, and then, of course, why we need to protect ourselves from them and what you can actually do. And we have our Great Mozzie Checkup. Hopefully Rosie's got one there, which is available on our website. This is more of the junior version of it, but there's also more of an adult version too, where there's a list of everything you can look for around your house. So if you've got a pond, making sure you've got native fish in there to eat the mosquito larvae, or if you've got, tyres around your house, making sure that they've either got holes in the bottom of them so the water can drain out, or that they're in a place where water can't actually collect in them. It's just a bit of a checklist so that you can do that at home, but we also do it at school as well, okay? So we also have, the teacher's guides, which we've certainly already spoken about. There's also a series of posters. So the posters, two different posters. That one's upside down.
Oh, sorry.
So there's Remember the 4Ds, which is all about basically what we can actually do. So the 4Ds is dusk and dawn. Don't go outside at dusk and dawn, because that's when mosquitoes are most active and that's when you're likely to get bitten. If you are going to go outside at that time, then you need to defend yourself by using an insect repellent. Dress, so that's dressing appropriately. So wearing long-sleeved, long pants and long-sleeve shirts. And light colours are better than darker colours. So mosquitoes are attracted to blacks and blues. So if you are going to be outside at night, just wear white or cream or something a bit lighter. And of course, make sure you cover up your ankles as well, because they quite often do get bitten. And then drain is basically where that checklist comes in, making sure there's no water left around your house, that you're always draining something. And then the other one we've got is more about, the actual things you can do to prevent mosquitoes around your home. So, and we'll go through some of that in a moment. But yeah, ponds, like I've mentioned, tyres, those sorts of things. So, yep, they're available as well. And then we also have a brochure. So our brochure is at the moment quite specific to the Perth region. It does go a little bit more into detail about some of the mosquitoes around Perth. But yeah, certainly if this was going to be taken up by council over in the eastern states, they certainly could adapt it to their area. Most of the core information is pretty much relevant everywhere. It might just be a bit of a, the disease section might need to be updated for your particular area. But the rest of it should be pretty much, could be used anywhere over Australia.
It has tearing section.
Oh yeah, and then you can actually tear it off, and there's another checklist in there that can be used as well to go around the house. So yeah, things like bird baths, people don't think about bird baths, but if they're not tipped out every week during summer and fresh water put in, then you've got, you know, standing water sitting there for a week where mosquitoes can breed. Even gutters, if you've got gutters up on your roof that have got weeds growing in them so the water can't actually flow out, if there's water sitting up in there, another place mosquitoes can breed. Toys, kids' toys that are left outside, Tonka trucks, things like that, and they get water in the back of them, sit there for a week again, another place that mosquitoes can breed. And a big one is definitely pot plants. Pot plant saucers, so either get rid of your saucers, or if you do want to have a saucer, then just put some sand in the bottom of it so you don't have freestanding water. But in saying that, some mosquitoes can lay their eggs in damp, muddy areas as well. So you have to be a little bit careful. And pools as well. But, you know, if you've got a pool, hopefully you're using it as a pool and putting your chemicals in your salt in. So it's not actually an area where mosquitoes can breed. But that's all on that checklist, which you can get off of our website, and we'll put that up a bit later on. So our Mozzie Wise program, over the last few years, we've spoken to nearly 100 different school incursions to over 2,500 students. And with those ones, we've actually done before and after surveys. So we'll just go through some of the information we've collected over the time just to see what the kids sort of know. So at the start, before we went in, we got the teachers to survey the kids. There's just 5 very simple questions. One of them is about, do they know where mosquitoes actually breed? So at the start, before we went in, only about 8% of the students actually knew where mosquitoes breed.
Exact answer.
Yeah, the exact answer, that's right. And about 43% of them had a partially correct answer. And around about 50% said they had no idea. But after we'd been in, we surveyed them again after we'd been through places where they do breed, and we had over 57% then that actually had a correct answer, and another 36% that had a partially correct answer. So there was a big change in what the kids actually knew. And we also asked them about, did they know how to prevent mosquitoes from breeding around their house? So, you know, do they go and tip out their water from their dog bowl every week, those sorts of things. So beforehand, it was about 6% that did have the correct answer. They knew what they needed to do. And over 85% had no idea. They had the incorrect answer. But afterwards, we had only 50% that had the incorrect answer, and the rest, so about the other 50, sort of knew how to prevent mosquitoes from breeding. So yeah, there was another big change in there. And then one more that we asked them was about mosquito-borne diseases in the Perth region. So 85% of them beforehand had no idea about mosquito-borne diseases or what they were. But afterwards, it was less than 47% could actually tell us or didn't know. So over 52% actually knew. So yeah, we've got some pretty good data there that shows just within a small amount of time of us being there with them, they actually learned a lot, and we're taking that back home with them. So what we have learnt about from our school incursions, we learnt that there is a very low awareness of mosquitoes out there in our environments. A lot of the kids had no idea about what mosquitoes did and what their role was in the environment. For most of them, we would take in live samples of mosquito larvae. They'd never seen mosquito larvae before, and also the pupae, and also just macroinvertebrates from our waterways. They had no idea that there's all these bugs that live in the water that are predators for things like mosquito larvae. So that was a big learning that we learnt about. And then, yeah, the before and after surveys certainly showed us that, yeah, just giving a bit of information, a bit of an activity around this, that, yeah, the students certainly took a lot of that on board. So with our Mozzie Wide Partnership Program, we've also, like I mentioned before, done a number of community displays and workshops and also community surveys as well. We're not going to present the community survey information today, but if there's anybody's interested, we can certainly let you know. But basically that showed similar things to the students, that there has certainly been an increase in knowledge once they have actually learned a little bit more about mosquitoes. Do you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, basically we want to explain them we have mosquito-borne diseases. A lot of people answers malaria and dengue, and also answered we don't have mosquito-borne diseases here.
Yeah.
Or some people think we have dengue or malaria.
Yeah, which we don't, of course.
Actually, of course, Queensland and some other states we have dengue mosquitoes. We don't have here. It's increasing knowledge, and also to explain them how they can prevent and how they can not to breed mosquitoes in their backyard.
Exactly. So a lot of the community people had no idea that mosquitoes are probably breeding in their fish pond or in their bird baths. So that certainly showed too that we've still got a lot of work to do out there to let people know what they can do to stop mosquitoes from breeding. But the big one was certainly the mosquito-borne viruses. They seem to all know about the exotic viruses from other countries and other, Zika is an example as well of one that, they always say Zika, but we don't have Zika here. So the actual mosquito-borne diseases we have in Australia, a lot of Australians don't actually seem to know that we have them. So we have found that our Mozzie Wise program has been a very successful education tool, both in the actual classroom, but also out in the community as well. And it's really has increased community awareness of mosquitoes and mosquito-borne diseases and things that we can actually do to stop the mosquitoes from actually breeding. And it also has allowed some of the councils we've been working in so that they don't have to spend so much money on chemicals. Because a lot of the mosquitoes that breed are actually breeding in people's backyards. They're not actually breeding out in the environment. They're actually breeding where the people are. So if we can get people getting rid of those mosquitoes around their houses, that's certainly going to be really good for the local council, but also the local environment as well. So we're not adding all these chemicals into these places. So that is pretty much it. So we do have a Mozzie Wise section on the SERCUL website, if you wanted to have a look at that. But both myself and Rose are more than happy to answer questions if anybody's got any questions or any comments that they would like to make about the Mozzie Wise program and what we've been doing. Do you want to add anything?
Yes, only thing I want to add extra is this is not just only about mosquitoes. This is open up more linking with other science activities for children, and also to understand adult about pollution and other environmental links
as well. That's very true.
So does anybody have any questions for Rose or Amy?
It looks like Deb's got one. So she said, I'm interested here if growing certain
plants or removing others is effective. Okay.
If certain plants, I'm interested to hear if growing certain plants or removing others is effective. Well, certainly weeds, you might want to answer that one. You're probably better off than
I. If you have some weeds in your backyard, it's better clean some of weeds and create area a little bit to aeration and wind aeration. And also remove plants in other thing. If you have pineapple like bromelia plants, those plants provide habitat for mosquito to complete their life cycle. Those plants can retain water.
Yeah, exactly. So any plants that retain water like bromeliads can within the actual plant itself. Again, if it sits there for a week, mosquitoes can breed in that. So avoiding plants like that in your garden would certainly be a good thing. But yes, if you have like Rose was saying, a really weedy area, even an area that stays moist for just a week over the warmer months, mosquitoes can even breed in there as well. So make sure you keep your lawns cut and making sure you don't have areas where there's lots of weeds around that can sort of retain water.
If you do have bromeliads, are you able to flush them? Because I quite like the look of the plant and they are tiny.
I've got bromeliads in my garden, so I shouldn't be lecturing people on not having them. But,
I know it's bromeliads. Some actually tropical countries, bromeliads are the plants frogs can breed.
Yes.
And in Sri Lanka. But the thing is now, if you, especially dengue mosquito, can breed quickly. And we are lucky we don't have mosquito. But we have container breeder mosquitoes recently increased. Those mosquitoes, container breeders, can breed
in bromeliads.
What you can do, it's sad, but now some countries, they request put sand little bit, even for pineapple plantation.
Okay.
It's a, yes, if not water is not evaporating, rainy period, you need to add
just
little
a bit
bit
of sand.
Otherwise, you careful not to get in water with sprinklers.
So just try and avoid water going into them, I guess. I've had another question about, I was told to plant lemon-scented plants. Does that help? So
there are some herbs, mosquito actually they don't like. Some like marigold, lemongrass, that type of plants. But only by planting we cannot produce mosquito breeding. But if you don't have any water retained in your backyards, you don't have to worry. Of course, neighbors, if neighbors breed mosquitoes, or in any closed drains breeding mosquitoes, that can be. But yes, citronella or some plants people ask always, it's better to have, but it's need to have smell for mosquitoes. But what you can do if you are doing barbecue in backyard, so you can have some lemongrass or some herb twig on top of the grill. It creates
so
smell,
that the fumes,
and then mosquitoes not comes around that smell.
So what was that one? Oh, so we did have a PowerPoint presentation which was up on the A2E2 website. So that's all there if you wanted to have a look at that. That's a question from Jen. Should already be up there.
But we are not giving PDF for because.
But there is, if you do want, there is a bit of information on our website as well, so you can go on there and download some of the resources. Some of the other resources, are sort of more for, I guess, the Perth region. But we're certainly happy to discuss maybe using them in other areas as well. Are there any other questions?
Amy, if another state or a council wanted to use your resources, you've said that that's okay, but is it the traditional way of acknowledging where they came from?
So some of the resources are part of our sort of package that we actually sell to local governments. Other ones we're happy for people to utilise straight away.
Brochure is okay.
The brochure's fine, but like I said, that's probably
others need to actually order.
The checkup you can download off our website already. That's available for anybody to use.
Checklist
and the brochure. Some of the posters and the teacher guides are part of a package sort of that we sort of sell to local governments, or a school might get us out for an incursion, and we sort of do it that way. Then they're able to utilise those resources.
I understand that you can't fly all over Australia doing this work.
But no.
Well, that's always a consideration, is that given the knowledge and the that you have.
Yes.
If another jurisdiction wanted to bring you in to do a special
certainly. Rose did a presentation just recently to environmental health officers from all over Australia. So that's sort of where we sort of try and target the local governments to sort of come on board with us and sort of then being able to utilise these in their areas. But I guess if there's a community group out there as well that was interested in some of the resources, we can certainly have a chat to them about how we can maybe, how they could use them.
This is the only mosquito education program linking with educational program, linking with national science curriculum. Yes, to whole Australia. So what we need to do, only change species according to different state.
Everything else is general.
general.
Yeah.
So that raises a question I put in a little earlier was, could the National Square create a link through to your your organisation on a site that we've created for teachers? Because the teachers are looking for these sort of resources, and if it's a generic one, so long as there was a proclaimer there that said, you know, check with your own health body, your jurisdiction, then these resources could be used.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, another thing, if some other states at the national conference, they ask if they're happy to get into some other states, whether we are happy to come and do any teacher professional.
Yeah, that's the other thing we didn't mention.
So if they organize, if worthwhile to fly, and yes, we will consider.
Yeah, we will consider. We have
certainly
looked at going to places in Western Australia. Some of the councils down south were quite interested and wanted us to do some teacher professional development, which we didn't actually mention. That is part of that. Yeah, I'm certainly sure we could figure something out if one of the other states in Australia were quite interested. Whether we do something like this, like a webinar type thing, or whether we actually go there and help them set it all up in their area. Yep.
Then we can show them practicals, what they can do with children.
Yeah.
Not only just targeting mosquitoes, same time they can target with food webs and also waterway pollution and environmental other areas.
Yeah.
In some ways, this is such a doable, positive action that even that can happen in a schoolyard or a community group or at home, and it adds. Yeah.
Even just downloading that checklist from our website, you've got something there.
Start.
You can start looking at around your house. And the brochure, which has got some general information. Yep.
Oh, good. Deb said it's wonderful, but does anybody else have any other questions or suggestions or bright ideas about possible use of this resource? Not that I want to take over the world, but I think if it's that generic, then this sort of information could work across a whole range of countries, couldn't it?
Actually. Yep.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if that's something that's of use. And our network certainly is strong like that. It reaches into a lot of places.
Yes, easy to use any state because it's linked with the national science curriculum, not just Western Australia.
Rose, would a school be able to take up this program and flag it as a citizen science or a STEM project?
Yeah.
Probably STEM more than citizen science.
STEM project, yes. Some schools request under like Tibetan Primary, we did 14 incursions, 14.
Wow.
So we spoke to their whole school basically.
Yeah. So at that time, Department of Health gave support to us to do this as a pilot incursions.
Yeah.
That's the way we learn how we can improve. And we identified we need picture checklist like this for kindy, pre-primary year 1 and 2. Yes.
Oh, there you go, Deb, that's your answer.
But when you talk about it. Oh yeah, so the personal protective sprays, because some of those can be quite nasty. You know a fair bit about that.
Especially for early childhood.
Yeah, for young kids. You wouldn't want to be spraying DEET on them, I guess. So
the best thing is, I think, I know National Entomology Department recommend DEET as a spray, but they recommend you need to read labels carefully. Some sprays not suitable for infants or some
young
ages,
children,
and even for adults can get allergy. That's why I think we prepared this 4D poster to understand. Best thing is cover much as possible if you are going close to do any activities close to mosquito breeding areas like wetlands or salt marshes, or if you are having birthday party or barbecue in the evening or early morning, that's the time most mosquitoes active. And best thing is cover much as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And otherwise you need to read labels carefully before you apply any repellent.
So there are some, I guess, more ones using essential oils and a little bit more health conscious, I guess, but I haven't seen any research to say that how effective they are at actually protecting from mosquitoes.
Those also can, even some natural herbal repellent can affect skin if we overuse. And also it's depend on the in kind of chemicals, how long it lasts. Some herbal repellents last only 1 hour.
Yes.
So it lasts quite longer. But the thing is best to cover much as possible.
Exactly. So that's why, I guess putting insect repellent on is really the last resort. You should be covering yourself up with appropriate clothing, not going out at dusk and dawn, and just making sure that you're draining things around your house. Yep.
Citronella candles can keep mosquito away. There are some repellent citronella. Yes, mosquito don't like citronella, but it's not last longer. If you are going hike, then you need to remember to reapply again.
Yeah.
Yes. Another, yes. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. That's the question she asked. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
One example is US, some states, schools, they also, children need to change their sports uniform during even daytime to long sleeves sports uniform to do their sports activities outside. They have some mosquitoes active daytime. That's very good example. Even summertime, no matter how hot, but they need to change to long sleeves shirts and pants, not using any chemical repellents. They need to wear long sleeve pants to protect from mosquitoes.
Okay, doesn't seem like there's any more questions.
No, I think everybody's happy. So we've covered the entomology, the programs you run, where we can resource them after this event.
So
the types of places you need to work on around your home, community, schools to lessen it. Personal care for
so that's the main thing, personal protection, and then just making sure that you haven't got anywhere around your house or your workplace where mosquitoes can be breeding.
So just one last point from me is, so how long has it taken you to craft this set of resources?
It's in my case, I did research about 2 years, and even I started to research before I joined with SERCUL, and to prepare and research all contents, and then curriculum linked done by a curriculum writer. Then easy for her to check each contents and linked with curriculum. It took time.
Took a few years
because you need to understand mosquito ecology and mosquito species and what habitat they breed, and to understanding about also mosquito predators, what type of predators we have in our waterways.
And then we ran a pilot program as well through the Department of Health funding in different schools. So we tried out our resources, tried out our incursion, tried out some of the community forums, and certainly learned some lessons and have changed things since then. So
so that report, would you have created a report out of that trial material?
Yes, already presented in state government forums, I think three times, and also national conference just last month.
Yes.
I presented at national conference, National Environmental Health Conference.
Just on that line, it's sometimes useful if there was a report or a presentation that for groups that need that data that you collected around the effectiveness of all those programs.
Yep.
I know you probably might not consider writing a piece for the AJEE, but there would be other journals that.
Yes, I'm thinking to prepare a kind of paper, easy to understand local communities. It's with my time actually.
Yes.
More questions remain to analyze. It takes quite a long time, more than 1,000, over 1,000 answer sheets.
Hours. Yeah.
Yes.
No, the actual surveys.
Survey sheets.
Oh, okay.
Yes. In 5 questions, then separately need to analyze and also need to separate with age groups. Otherwise, it can see a lot of errors.
Okay. It's just a thought because, you know, we often hear of all these wonderful programs that are created and they are tested. But then what the community out there need is is it written up, and it's the evaluation of that program that then can help another group get it incorporated.
We do have even yearly we did with the City of Canning, you know, Science Expo. I did 4 years Science Expo to see how, because same group of people coming with their children. That's good opportunity to see how much they remember. I analyzed up to 2017. Yes. It's pretty much. And if anybody interested to see the analyzed data and our SERCUL presentation, it's available in 43rd National Environmental Health Conference homepage.
Yeah.
Already.
Or we can just send it to you.
It's already, they uploaded already.
Okay, so what I might do then is, because this webinar now will be packaged and put in the members section of A-Square, then if you have those resources, we can put them next to this recording, and then you know, indicate to people that the offer came out of the discussion of these extra resources that you can read and refer to.
Certainly the evaluation stuff we can.
Evaluation section we can make. I'm thinking to finish kind of, it's kind of like summarized paper. Then definitely we can upload to.
That's fine.
And you never know, Catherine might, our colleague Catherine Bourdains at Murdoch might find somebody that could help write it up.
Possibly.
For the AJE, or, you know.
I'd
offer Elaine Lewis, but we all know she's too busy, so.
I already submitted reports to Department of Health, and they also already analyzed, but not all questions. I need time to analyze other questions. Some other questions.
But there certainly is some data there that we could
It's always that the issue around promoting what you've done. So doing official reports is one item, but rewriting something so that it presents to a different audience, like teachers, local government, community groups. A particular slant might need to be, or has to be applied so that they see it as readable.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it's the beauty of what you've done. Good, solid research and application. From Deb, I think we have to work around dressing as for sun sense and working with families.
That's
definitely the way to go, I think. Especially
Thanks,
young
Deb.
kids.
They are attracted to our Mozzie character, male design. Our web design.
Okay, all right. Well, if there's no further questions, we'll wrap up the webinar and thank Amy and Rose so much for giving up your time and putting this together. And I'm pretty sure the members will start to log in as they find time. It's just, this is quite hectic this time of year.
Oh, yeah, it is definitely. But no, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, feel free to get in contact with us or go to our website now and see the resources up there. So we're happy to chat.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See ya.
See
Bye.
you.